Welcome to the first of 20 free lessons on the logic game section of the LSAT. And before we get started here, let's just take a quick look at the next slide. This is what the lessons will look like. In the first four, if you go up in the upper right-hand corners here, you'll see the official LSAT prep test June sample, the PDF. If you go ahead and Google that, that is the one official LSAT that you can get your hands on. Of these 20 lessons, numbers 1 through 4 will be drawn from that test. Games 1 through 4 on that test. The next 15, lessons 5 through 20, if you take a look below here at our website, crushthelsat.org, there's a book of official LSATs. It's volume 5, 10 actual official LSAT prep test, volume 5. There's a link to that, an Amazon link. If you purchase that, the remaining 16 lessons on here, 5 through 20, are drawn from different practice tests in that book and then placed in approximate order of difficulty and topic by topic. So first sequencing games, then grouping games, etc., etc. You'll see what I mean as we go forward. But we wanted to get started here with 4 games that you can download and look at right away. Anyone who's ever prepared for the LSAT will tell you that the analytical reasoning section of the test, the so-called logic games section of the test, that's what everybody calls it, is by far the most mysterious part of the test, the most difficult part of the test. But fortunately, it is also the most teachable part of the test. And the goal in the next 20 videos is to get you to a point where you will be very familiar with how to tackle a logic game. We want to relieve you of any worries you might have about the logic games early on so that you can then spend the rest of your studies focused on the real meat of the test, the logical reasoning section of the test, 2 of the 4 sections that are scored. And let's talk about those sections a little bit. One thing that every lesson is going to have is a top 5 list or a top 10 list or a top something list. Things you should really know between now and the day you start law school. There's the logic game section we'll be talking about. And logical reasoning, that's the real meat of the test, 2 sections. Then there's reading comprehension. Those add up to about 100 questions. Sometimes it's 99, sometimes it's 101, but about 100. The scores themselves range from 120 to 180. A perfect score is a 180. Very, very difficult to get. The LSAT also has a writing section. It is unscored, not scored in any way, doesn't count toward your 120 to 180 score on the test. It's not a section to spend much time at all worrying about. But the other 4 sections, here are some numbers you should know about. So the logic games. Logic games, anywhere from 23 to 24 logic games questions. So it's actually a little bit less than a quarter of the test. Logical reasoning, the 2 sections will each have about 25 questions. So we're talking 50 in total. And then the reading comp, that'll be more like 26, 27 questions. So a little more than a quarter of the test. So those are some of the quick basics about the test itself. Number 2, in the eyes of admissions committees, your LSAT score is actually more important than your GPA and certainly more important than everything else. Every school attaches a certain amount of weight to different areas of your application. The LSAT, although there's no one official formula out there, generally speaking, the LSAT counts for about 60% of your application, fairly or unfairly. The GPA around 40%, and everything else, we're talking letters of recommendation, your personal statement, your resume, ballpark around 2 to 5% depending on the law school. So very smart to start preparing for the LSAT ASAP. Number 3, people wonder, well, I want to go to a certain school. What score do I need to get in? And I'm putting need in quotes. Well, most people are familiar with the U.S. News reports. You can look there, the U.S. News rankings. You can also look at, and these are free, the first website, ilrg.com, will give you lots of data about students at each law school. LSAT and GPA, it'll give you the top 25th percentile, the top 75th percentile. You look at those numbers, you can take an educated guess on what the median is. So that's a great site. The second one, a little more complicated. If you just Google LSAC, that's Law School Admissions Council. Those are the creators of the LSAT. LSAC UGPA, U stands for undergrad. Undergrad GPA and LSAT. If you look at that and pick a law school, you'll see what are the approximate chances of getting into that school depending on your LSAT and your GPA. Something else you want to take a look at. Number 4, the LSAT is actually going digital in July 2019. It's always been a pencil and paper test, fill in little bubbles on the bubble sheet. For those who take the test in July 2019, half will take it on a tablet, half will take it pencil and paper, but until you show up on the test date, you won't know which half you're in. After that, after July, everybody who takes the LSAT will be taking it on a tablet, and they'll give you what's called a stylus. I'll try to spell that. STYLUS. It's a little digital pen you can work with. And by all accounts, using the tablet and the stylus is going to be very, very easy. No need to worry about that as far as your LSAT prep goes. And number 5, not sure why that little 6 popped up there. You would be crazy to think you can take the LSAT without spending a lot of time preparing for it. The test is very hard. It requires a lot of preparation. How much time should you spend preparing? Well, think about hey, if this score counts more than even my undergraduate GPA, why don't I spend at least 4 months studying for as many hours as I would per week for a college semester course, let's say 8 to 10 hours a week. And you definitely want to take 8 to 10 official practice exams. You want to work with the real thing. All right, so with all that in mind, let's jump into our first logic game. So what do we have here? We have an employee who generates these 5-digit product codes. And the digits, they aren't 1 through 5, they're actually 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're given some rules here. So in a code, each digit appears once. No digit is repeated. The next one, the second digit, is twice as big as the first one. So I'll put a little bullet here. The second digit is twice as big. How about I write is double the first, is double the first. So that's an interesting rule. How about the next one? The value of the third digit is less than the value of the fifth. So the third, I'll write this. I'll write the third is, how about a less than sign? Less than the value of the fifth. Okay. This is what we call a sequencing game. And it is just about the simplest game you're ever going to see on the LSAT. The one exception here is that it's easy to get the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 confused with the slots in which we're going to place them. We're going to have our code here. It's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits in it. These digits will appear in a certain sequence, so I want to draw out a sequence. This is a sequencing game. Let's look at the rules and see what we can actually put in the diagram. So the second is double the value of the first digit. So could the first digit be 0? Well, no, because 2 times 0 is 0, and we can't have a digit appear twice. Okay, so 0 is out. How about 1? Could you have 1, 2? Sure, we could do that. How about 2? Could you have 2, 4? That would work. How about 3? No, because 3, 6, there is no 6, so that's out. So really, there are two sort of broad scenarios here. Our code, it could start with 1, 2, or it could start with 2, 4, and that's it. Those are the only two possibilities. And you're going to see a lot of this on logic games where there are 2, sometimes 3 broad scenarios. And what we want to do in this case is draw 2 diagrams, and I'll erase what I just wrote. Let's do another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so this will be scenario on the left, scenario 1, world 1, and world 2 over here. And in one scenario, I have 1 and 2. In the second scenario, I have 2 and 4. All right, so that's rule 1. It's all taken care of. I put it all in the diagram, so I don't even need to view rule 1 anymore. How about rule 2? The value of the third digit is less than the value of the fifth digit. So we have the third digit and the fifth digit, and the value of the third is less than the value of the fifth. How about I use my less than sign again? Why don't we try that? Use my less than sign again, and maybe I'll draw 2 arrows. How about that? So there again, we're able to put a rule in the diagram, which is fantastic. What's the next thing we can do? Well, let's lay out who's left and who can go where. So in world 1, we've taken care of 1 and 2. Who's left? Well, 0, we don't want to forget about 0. 0, 3, and 4. And then in world 2, we have 0, 1, and 3. And so what you can see we're doing here is we're thinking about the rules and how the rules apply before we just dive right into the questions. And let's spend just a few more moments doing that. So who could appear in slot 3? Take a look at my rule. 3 has to be less than 5. I say 3, I'm talking about the slot. Well, 0 could be in 3, and then 5 could be digit 3 or 4. Digit 3 could be in slot 3, and then digit 4 would be in slot 5. But can digit 4 be in slot 3? No, because then slot 5 would be filled by a digit that is less. How about scenario 2? Slot 3 could be filled with digit 0, in which case what would go in slot 5? It would have to be either 1 or 3. Both are greater than 0. And then what else is possible? What else could you put in slot 3? Well, you could put 1 in there, and then slot 5 would have to be 3. So 2 basic possibilities. We just want to be aware of that before we jump into the questions. And that's our master diagram. We're not going to touch it. We're not going to tamper with it. We're just going to draw this big, thick underline and tackle the questions one by one. So question 1, if the last digit in the code is 1, then what must be true? Well, here, having these 2 scenarios helps us out because we can't be in world 1 here. We have to be in world 2. So in world 2, and I said we don't want to tamper with our master sketch. So let's do this down here. We have 2, 4, digit 1 is in the 5th slot. What must be true? Well, we look at our rule. The digit in slot 3 has to be less than the one in slot 5. We must have a 0 here, and therefore a 3 in slot 4. You take a look at the answer choices. Answer A. first digit is 2. Okay, which question do we want to take on next? And I'll, by the way, label this. This was question 1. We always want to label which question we did. Well, you don't necessarily want to take the questions in the order in which they're given. It's a really good idea to jump to questions that actually give you some details, give you some information, info that really narrows down the list of possible arrangements. So let's actually take a look at question 3. Here's another must-be-true question, but it gives us a detail. If the third digit is not 0, which of the following must be true? Okay, so I'm taking a look at my 2 scenarios. Third digit is not 0. Looks like that could happen in either world 1 or world 2. So let's write this out twice. I'll note that this is question 3. So we've got either 1, 2, 2, 4. And by the way, you may have noticed by now, I'm trying to take on these questions slowly and methodically and writing out a lot of things that you could probably do pretty easily in your head. And the reason for that is so that you can learn exactly what's going on with these logic games, learn about the thinking you need to apply, so that after these 20 lessons, you'll be able to do them practically automatically. Sketch things out very quickly, do a lot of it in your head. But we want to start out here by doing everything slowly. Okay, in this question, 0 does not appear third. All right, who can appear third or who must appear third? Well, in world 1 here, it's got to be 3. The digit in the third slot has to be less than the digit in the fifth slot. 3, then the fifth slot is going to be 4. 0 is going to go right here. So that's world 1. World 2, who can go in the third slot or who must go in the third slot? It must be digit 1, and that puts digit 3 in slot 5 and 0 in slot 4. So the answer to this must be true question, you just take a look at what we've written out. Hey, what did the 2 possibilities here have in common? They both have 0 in slot 4. You take a look at the answer choices. Answer C. Fourth slot is 0. Okay, which question do I want to take on next? Well, I take a quick look at 4 and 5. I was hoping to get one that gives me some extra details. It doesn't, but that's fine. So we'll go back to question 2, and I'm going to start a new slide here. Which of the following must be true about any acceptable product code? No details to work with here at all, so we'll just jump right to the choices. Answer A, must it be true that digit 1 appears at some point before digit 2? Well, if you take a look at world 1, that is true in world 1, but how about world 2? No. So A is out. How about 2? Digit 1 appears before digit 3. Is that a must be true? True in scenario 1, but in scenario 2, I don't think I even need to draw this out for you, but could we put digit 1 after digit 3? We could. We could put 1 in slot 5. What's in slot 5 has to be bigger than what's in slot 3. That could be 0, and then we could put 3 in slot 4. And by the way, this is question 2. I want to make sure I label it. That is possible, so B is out. How about C? Digit 2 appears before digit 3? Yes. World 1, that is true. World 2, that is true. Answer C. All right, question 4. Which of the following digits could appear third and fourth in the code? So we're going to have 4 choices that would work just fine, but 1 that can't. All right, so let's jump into the choices here. 0, 1, can you have 0 and 1 in slots 3 and 4? Well, in world 1, we can't because 1 is already taken. How about world 2? Here again, I don't think I need to write it out, but I will just in case. And let me note this is question 4. Can I have 0, 1? Okay, 0, 1. Who goes in slot 5? 3. Is that fine? Yes, because slot 3 has to be less than slot 5. That's just fine. So A is not going to be the answer. How about B, 0 and 3? Well, if you take a quick look, that could be true in both scenario 1 and scenario 2. In scenario 1, you could have 0, 3, 4. In scenario 2, you could have 0, 3, 1. In scenario 2, it's okay for 1 to be last because it's greater than 0. It's still greater than slot 3. So B is out. How about C? 1, 0. Can we have that? Well, not in world 1, obviously, but how about in world 2? Can you have 1, 0? Yeah, and then 3 goes in the fifth slot. That's just fine. How about D? Can you have 3, 0? If you look up at world 1 in the left, 3, 0, 4, that's fine. Let's take a look at E just to be certain. Can you have 3 and 4? Well, in world 2, obviously you can't because 4 is in, you'll see in slot 3. How about in world 1? Again, don't think I need to write it out, but I might as well. 1, 2, can you have 3, 4, and who's left? 0? Well, no, because slot 5 has to be greater than slot 3. E is our correct answer. Last question, question 5, another must be true question. Which of the following must be true about any acceptable product code? So we're going to have 4 choices that either can't be true or something that could be true but is not a must be true. So what do we have? Answer A, exactly 1 digit between 0 and 1. Exactly 1 digit? Well, let's look up on the left-hand side. World 1. No, digit 0 could be in the 4th slot. So A is out. How about B? Exactly 1 digit between digit 1 and 2. Well, that one's gone right away. You just look at scenario 1. That one's out. How about C? At most 2 digits between digit 1 and digit 3. At most 2. So let's ask ourselves, could there be 3 or more? Well, world 1. Could you put 3 digits in between 1 and 3? Yes, you could put 3 all the way in the last slot, all the way in number 5. So C is not a must be true. How about D? At most 2 digits between digit 2 and digit 3. Well, same idea. Let's ask ourselves, could there be 3 digits in between digit 2 and digit 3? You look at world 2. Yes, digit 3 could be in the 5th slot. So D is gone. Let's make sure E is correct. At most 2 digits between digits 2 and 4. So could you ever have 3 digits in between digits 2 and 4? You look at world 1. No, maximum would be 2 digits. Look at world 2. Obviously right next to each other. So answer E. Now before we go, I said every video is going to have a top 5 list or a top something list. Well, here we actually have 2 top 5 lists. Top 5 things to do in the next 24 hours. Well, number 1, going back to what we said earlier about the sort of law school score you need to be a good candidate at a particular school. Go back and visit those 2 websites. The second one, a longer one, would just require a Google search. But you want to get a good sense early on of what kind of score you're going to need. Number 2, Google LSAT dates, deadlines, and score release dates. If you do that, you'll find out on the official website, the LSAC website. You want to have a sense early on of what your study calendar would have to look like. Number 3, also on the LSAC website, if you're planning to take the test, get online to create an account right away. You don't have to pay any money. You don't need to choose a test date. It's a really good idea to at least get started. And then you'll start getting emails from the LSAC from time to time, things you'll need to know. So it's a good idea to get that done right away. Number 4, to follow lessons 5 through 20, you'll need to get this book of prep tests, as they're called. So just go down to our website again, crestylsat.org. You'll find the link to purchase this book. And number 5, if you found this video helpful, please click the like button and share it with your friends. Anyone you know who's prepping for the LSAT right now or maybe prepping for it in the near future. We really want to build a community here of future test takers. And another thing, if you have any comments, please share. We'd love to read your comments about this lesson, about logic games, about the LSAT in general. And oftentimes your comments can be a big help for other viewers. So hope you'll give the video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and be sure to subscribe. After the Logic Games videos, we're going to start posting some videos on logical reasoning. And so when they're posted, you'll be the first to know. Thanks, and hope to see you in the next video.